Let's talk about the discomfort of choosing yourself. You make a decision not out of anger, not out of spite, but out of self-respect. You create space, you set a boundary, you step back. And suddenly, the people who once demanded more of you, more time, more energy, more emotional labor, are mad, not disappointed, not confused, but mad. Why? Because they mistook your past self-sacrifice for love. We've been taught that love means showing up no matter what, that caring means always being available, always forgiving, always bending. But real love, healthy love, respects boundaries. And when someone lashes out because you've drawn a line, that's not love. That's entitlement. Here's the hard part. They will call you selfish. They will say you've changed, and the old version of you might have crumbled under that pressure, might have rushed back into spaces that drained you just to prove you still care. But here's what I need you to hear. Just because you care doesn't mean you owe access. Distance does not mean indifference. Choosing peace does not mean you wish others harm. But when people are used to benefiting from your lack of boundaries, your self-respect will feel like betrayal, and that's not your burden to carry. We hear the word boundaries a lot these days, but let's be clear. Setting boundaries is not about shutting people out. It's about making sure that the version of you that shows up in the world is not running on fumes, not depleted, not exhausted from carrying more than your fair share. Boundaries are not walls, they are doors with locks. They don't isolate you, they protect you. They allow the right people in while keeping harmful patterns, toxic behaviors, and unreasonable expectations out. And yet, when we set boundaries, we often feel guilty. Why? Because many of us were raised to believe that love means self-sacrifice, that being a good person means being endlessly available, that our value is tied to how much we can give, serve, or endure. But let's pause and ask ourselves, who benefits from that belief? The truth is, the people who get upset when you set boundaries are often the same people who benefited from you not having any. They were comfortable with your exhaustion because it meant their needs were met first. They were fine with your overcommitment because it meant they had access to you whenever they wanted. They didn't have to consider your well-being because you never asked them to. And then one day you did. You chose yourself. You recognized that you were pouring from an empty cup. You realized that constantly being available was costing you your peace, your mental health, and sometimes even your self-respect. And so you took a step back, you stopped over-explaining, stopped justifying, stopped proving your worth through self-sacrifice. And suddenly people were mad, not because you did anything wrong, but because you changed the rules, because they had built a version of you in their mind that was convenient for them, but unsustainable for you. Here's what I want you to remember. Boundaries are not punishments. They are clarifications of what is and isn't acceptable in your life. If someone truly cares for you, they won't just tolerate your boundaries. They will respect them. They may not like them at first, but they will sit with their discomfort and recognize that your well-being matters just as much as theirs. But if someone constantly pushes back against your boundaries, guilt trips you, or makes you feel like you're being selfish for protecting your peace, that's not love. That's control. And here's the hardest truth. People who love you for what you do for them will always be offended when you start loving yourself. But you cannot build a fulfilling, peaceful life by constantly managing other people's expectations. You cannot be everything to everyone without losing yourself in the process. So let them be upset. Let them call you selfish. Let them misunderstand, because at the end of the day, self-respect is worth more than forced relationships, and inner peace is far more valuable than external validation. Guilt is a powerful emotion. It has a way of sneaking into our minds, making us question ourselves, making us feel like we've done something wrong, even when we haven't. And when it comes to setting boundaries or choosing distance, guilt is often the first thing we feel. Why? Because guilt has been used against us for a long time. Many of us grew up in environments where guilt was a tool of control. It was the subtle, or sometimes not so subtle, way people kept us in line, kept us small, and kept us doing what was expected. After all I've done for you, this is how you treat me? You used to care more. You've changed. If you really loved me, you wouldn't do this. Sound familiar? Guilt is a tactic, not a truth. It's not a reliable indicator of right or wrong. It's an emotional reaction that has been conditioned into us, especially by those who benefited from our self-sacrifice. Let's be clear. There is a difference between true guilt and manipulated guilt. True guilt happens when we've actually done something wrong. When we've hurt someone, broken trust, or acted in a way that goes against our values, that kind of guilt is healthy. It tells us when we need to make amends. But manipulated guilt, that's different. That's when someone twists the narrative to make you feel responsible for their emotions, even when you've done nothing wrong. It's when they make your boundaries feel like a betrayal. It's when they turn their disappointment into your burden. And here's the thing, people who rely on guilt to control you aren't actually asking for connection. They're demanding compliance. They don't want to understand your perspective. They want you to abandon it in favor of theirs. This is why guilt is such an effective weapon. It plays on our deepest fears. The fear of being selfish, the fear of being alone, the fear of being seen as the bad guy. But here's what I need you to know. Choosing yourself is not selfish. Prioritizing your peace is not unkind. Taking space is not abandonment. When someone tells you that you're hurting them simply because you're setting a boundary, what they're really saying is, I liked it better when I could take from you without limits. That's not love, that's convenience. So the next time guilt creeps in, ask yourself, am I actually doing something wrong, or is someone just upset that I'm no longer willing to be drained for their benefit? Because guilt is a feeling, not a fact. And if someone is mad at you for respecting yourself, that's their problem, not yours. One of the hardest parts of choosing yourself, whether it's setting boundaries, creating distance, or simply saying no more often, is the fear of being misunderstood. It's that deep, gut-wrenching feeling that no matter how pure your intentions are, no matter how much thought you've put into your decision, someone will twist your actions into something they're not. They'll say you're cold. They'll say you don't care. They'll say you're the problem. And that fear, the fear of being painted as something you're not, keeps so many of us stuck in cycles we don't belong in. Why does being misunderstood hurt so much? As human beings, we are wired for connection. From childhood, we learn that being liked, being accepted, being seen in a positive light means safety. It means belonging. So when someone misinterprets our actions, especially when they assume the worst, it can feel personal, even unfair. You want to shake them and say, that's not what I meant. That's not who I am. You want to explain yourself, to overcompensate, to prove your heart is in the right place. But here's the truth. You cannot control how other people interpret your choices. You can speak with kindness, act with integrity, and communicate as clearly as possible, and still, someone will choose to misunderstand you. Why? Because sometimes their version of you, the one they've created in their mind, is more comfortable for them than the truth. If they see you as the always available one, then your distance must mean you're cruel. If they see you as the fixer, then your refusal to engage must mean you don't love them anymore. If they see you as the giver, then your boundaries must mean you've become selfish. But none of that is true. What's true is that you are evolving. What's true is that you are honoring yourself. What's true is that you are tired of playing roles that don't serve you. Let go of the need to be understood. The fear of being misunderstood often leads us to over-explain, to defend, to soften our boundaries so that no one feels uncomfortable. But here's the thing, the people who are meant for you will seek to understand you. The people who benefit from your silence will twist your words. You do not need to spend your energy convincing people who are committed to misunderstand you. You do not need to break yourself into smaller pieces so they feel more comfortable. You do not need to beg for approval from those who only valued you when you put them first, because at the end of the day, you will never be able to control someone else's perception of you. All you can control is how you show up in the world, with honesty, with integrity, and with a deep knowing that you are allowed to choose yourself, even if it makes others uncomfortable. Let them misunderstand. Let them tell their version of the story. The people who truly know you, the ones who love you for who you are, not what you do for them, will see your heart even in silence. Shame is one of the most powerful forces that keeps us from living fully, from setting boundaries, and from standing in our truth. It whispers, "Who do you think you are?" when we dare to choose ourselves. It convinces us that prioritizing our peace makes us selfish. It makes us feel like we are bad people simply for having needs, for wanting space, for not always being available. But here's the thing. Shame and authenticity cannot coexist. Shame wants you to shrink, to conform, to live for others instead of yourself. Authenticity demands that you stand firm in who you are, even when it's uncomfortable. And when you start choosing authenticity, shame will try to pull you back because you are challenging years of conditioning that told you that your worth was tied to what you could offer others. Where does shame come from? Shame is often planted in us early. It's in the lessons we were taught about what it means to be a good person. A good daughter always puts her family first. A good friend is always there no matter what. A good partner sacrifices their own needs to make the relationship work. Without realizing it, we start to equate self-sacrifice with love. We believe that saying no is rude, that prioritizing our own mental health is selfish, that if we distance ourselves from toxic situations, we are abandoning people. And when we finally start setting boundaries, when we decide that we can't keep carrying everyone else's burdens, shame kicks in like an old reflex. It tells us, "You're being mean." It says, "You don't care about them." It makes us feel like we have to over-explain, to justify, to prove that we're still good, still worthy, still enough. But let me tell you something, your worth is not measured by how much of yourself you give away. Authenticity is the antidote to shame. Shame is fueled by secrecy, by silence, by the fear of rejection, but authenticity shines a light on shame and says, "I refuse to live in fear of what others think." Authenticity means saying, "I am not responsible for managing everyone else's emotion." It means believing I can love people and still choose space. It means knowing my peace is not up for debate. And yes, authenticity is uncomfortable at first. You will feel the pull of old habits. You will feel the weight of disapproval from people who benefited from your silence. You will be tempted to soften your boundaries just to make the shame go away. But here's the truth. Shame fades when you refuse to feed it. The more you stand in your truth, the more you own your decisions, the less power shame has over you. The more you embrace who you are without guilt, without apology, the more you step into a life that is truly yours, letting go of the shame that isn't yours. Not all shame belongs to you. Some of it was handed to you by people who wanted to keep you small, who needed you to play a role that served them. Some of it was projected onto you by those who never learned how to take responsibility for their own emotions. Let that shame go, because you are not here to live according to someone else's expectations. You are not here to be liked at the cost of your own peace. You are not here to spend your life proving your goodness by how much of yourself you give away. You are here to be real, to be whole, to be free, and that means choosing authenticity over shame every single time. One of the most difficult lessons we learn in life is that love and access are not the same thing. We are taught to believe that if we love someone, we must always be available to them. That if we care, we must always answer the call, always show up, always stay connected, no matter how much it costs us. But here's the truth. Love is not measured by proximity. It is not defined by constant access. You can love someone deeply and still recognize that having them in your life is unhealthy. You can care about someone and still know that being close to them is not in your best interest. You can hold love for people in your heart without allowing them unlimited access to your mind, your energy, or your peace. This is where so many of us struggle, because the idea of choosing distance feels like betrayal. It feels like abandoning the people we care about. We worry that if we take space, it means we don't love them enough. But that's just not true. Unhealthy attachments versus healthy love. Many of us were raised in environments where love and obligation were intertwined, where love meant endurance, where family, friends, or partners expected us to prove our love by how much we were willing to sacrifice. If you loved me, you wouldn't walk away. If you cared, you wouldn't set boundaries. If you really wanted the best for me, you'd stay. But love that demands self-sacrifice is not love, it's control. True love understands that sometimes space is necessary. Sometimes the healthiest, kindest thing you can do for yourself and for others is to take a step back. Because love should never require you to abandon yourself. Letting go without losing love, one of the hardest things to accept is that you can love someone and still let them go. You can love someone and still know that their presence in your life is unhealthy. You can love someone and still refuse to tolerate disrespect, manipulation, or toxicity. You can love someone and still prioritize your well-being over their expectations. This doesn't mean you stop caring. It doesn't mean you wish them harm. It doesn't mean the love you shared wasn't real. It just means that love alone is not enough to sustain a relationship if it comes at the cost of your own peace. And here's something else to remember. Taking space doesn't mean you're closing the door forever. Sometimes people need to grow separately before they can come back together in a healthier way. Sometimes distance allows for healing that closeness never could. Love them from a distance. Loving someone from a distance means wishing them well without needing to be involved in their life. It means letting go of the guilt that says you owe them access just because you care. It means recognizing that protecting your energy is not an act of selfishness, it's an act of self-respect. Not everyone is meant to walk with you forever. Some people are lessons, some are temporary, and some are best loved from afar. So if you've had to walk away, if you've had to create space, if you've had to set boundaries that others don't understand, know this: you are still capable of love. You are still worthy of love. And you are allowed to love people without giving them access to every part of you. From a young age, many of us are taught that our worth is tied to how well we perform for others. We learn that being accepted, loved, and valued often comes at the cost of our own peace. We are praised for being accommodating, for putting others first, for never rocking the boat. We become masters of emotional labor, reading the room, adjusting ourselves to fit other people's expectations, making sure no one is uncomfortable even when we are. and before we know it, we are exhausted. Because living for performance, constantly proving, pleasing, and perfecting is a never-ending cycle. No matter how much you give, it is never enough. There will always be another expectation to meet, another role to play, another way to prove your worth. But here's the truth. You do not have to perform for love. You do not have to exhaust yourself to be valued. You are worthy as you are, even when you choose peace over pleasing. The weight of performance. For so many of us, performance is second nature. We perform in relationships, making sure we are always agreeable, always available, always the good friend, partner, or family member. We perform in our careers, working longer hours, saying yes when we mean no, pushing ourselves beyond our limits because we are terrified of being seen as lazy, difficult, or ungrateful. We even perform for ourselves, convincing ourselves that if we just achieve more, do more, be more, then maybe, just maybe, we will finally feel enough. But let me ask you this, at what cost? Because here's what performance does. It takes from you. It drains your energy, it steals your joy, and it disconnects you from yourself. You get so caught up in being who the world wants you to be that you forget who you actually are. And the scariest part, many of us don't realize we are doing it. We've been conditioned to believe that this is normal, that life is about duty and obligation, that success means being everything to everyone, even when it comes at the expense of our well-being. But at some point we have to ask, what would it look like to choose peace instead? The freedom of choosing peace. Choosing peace over performance means learning to disappoint people, and that's not easy. It means accepting that some people will be upset when you stop over-giving, over-explaining, and over-functioning. It means recognizing that your job is not to keep everyone else comfortable at the cost of your own exhaustion. It means realizing that saying no is not an act of selfishness, it is an act of self-preservation. Because here's the thing, people who only value you for what you can do for them will always be disappointed when you start valuing yourself. But the ones who truly love you, they won't leave when you stop performing. They won't punish you for setting boundaries. They won't require you to exhaust yourself to earn their love. That's the difference between conditional love and real love, letting go of the need to prove. When you stop performing, when you stop trying to manage how others see you, when you release the need to prove your worth, something incredible happens. You get your life back. You get to wake up and breathe without feeling like you owe the world an explanation. You get to make decisions based on what feels right for you, not based on what will keep others happy. You get to exist as you are without guilt, without shame, without the weight of constant expectation. And that is real freedom. Give yourself permission. So here's my challenge to you. Give yourself permission to rest, to say no, to choose peace, even when it means disappointing people. Because the truth is, you were never meant to live for the approval of others. You were never meant to perform for love. You were meant to live fully, freely, and unapologetically as yourself. And that begins the moment you decide that your peace is more important than their expectations. At some point, we all have to make a choice. Do we keep performing, over-explaining, and proving ourselves to people who will never truly see us? Or do we finally choose peace, even if it means walking away? Choosing distance doesn't mean you don't care. Setting boundaries doesn't mean you've stopped loving. Prioritizing your well-being doesn't make you selfish. These are acts of self-respect, not acts of cruelty. And yes, people will misunderstand you. Some will be mad, some will use guilt to try and pull you back. But that's not your burden to carry, because love can exist without access, because shame cannot control you when you choose authenticity, because guilt is often a tactic, not a truth. because your peace is worth more than their expectations. You do not owe anyone unlimited access to you. You do not have to prove your worth through exhaustion. You do not have to stay where you are not valued. The people who truly love you, who love the real you, not just the version of you that serves them, will never require you to sacrifice your well-being for their comfort. So take up space, stand firm in your boundaries, and know this: the people who belong in your life will never demand that you abandon yourself to keep them.